Welcome, everybody. Today is a special edition of the Forrest Fenn Treasure Found. Today is Sunday, April 18th, because we're very happy to have Mr. Toby Younis of A Gypsy's Kiss on the show, because we know the big news recently in the Forrest Fenn Treasure Found and the Thrill of the Chase community has been that Jack has called into AGK multiple times, and Toby is nice enough to come on, and we're going to play the clips, and we're going to talk about it. So thanks for being here, Toby.
Well, I do want to point out that it was as much news to me as it was to everybody else.
That's right. And that's something we can talk about as well.
Yeah.
You good, K-Pro?
Yes, we have a lost animal, and it's being reported by the children. We have a lost animal. We just have an animal hiding because it's chaos because we have 4 kids and 4 animals. So I'm sorry.
Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal Sunday afternoon. So yeah, everybody, welcome. We're going to have a lot to say. So I missed what Mike just said, so I might be repeating it. So of course you guys know Toby, he's here. We're so excited. We're going to talk to him in a second. But what we're going to do is go over kind of how this came about. This is not brand new information. It's just brand new information to us because a lot has been kind of, I call them inflection points. I heard this from a very smart man once upon a time. There's points in this chase that something happens and it kind of goes boom. I think we've had a boom. And so we really need to take a step back. We're going to take the first few minutes and go over how did this happen? Why did it take so long for us to know? What does this mean, kind of thing. Then we're actually going to walk through all, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 different times that Jack had been talking, texting, and discussing the chase with Toby on air. So we'll be able to actually play those. We're going to stop between each one and discuss them. And then we're going to have a panel tomorrow night and discuss all of this. We will have a lawyer on, or they play one on YouTube anyway, and just give some thoughts. We are going to have somebody who has one of those replica chests on as well. We're going to have a great time tomorrow night, so that'll be huge as well. But at least we wanted to start tonight with getting just the facts out as well. So
and I just want to remind everybody to subscribe, because you never know when we're going to go live. Just like today is a Sunday afternoon. Make sure you subscribe. Thumbs up for Toby, because it's really great to see him again. And Super Chat's on if you just have something you want us to talk about or answer, and we will do so. And thank you for the support. All right.
Mike, may I say something? So for those of you that are in the chat room, I am responding, but we converted AGK to messages and methods. So my chat is messages and methods. And if you want to reach out to me in the chat room, do @messages to get to me.
Yes, so Toby, for the one person that just got into the chase this morning that doesn't know who you are, who are you? And actually, there were a few people that are like, I am relatively new. Did they have a YouTube channel? We did, because they've been watching it since then. I had a reporter ask a couple days ago, like, so AGK, I can't find them. What's going on? So maybe give a tiny bit of background, even though of the over 100 people watching, probably 93% of them know who you are.
So I'll give you the short version and why I'm in New Mexico. I was born and raised in New Mexico, but I spent most of my life in Washington, D.C. I returned to New Mexico to retire in 2010. In 2012, I got a copy of the Hemisphere magazine talking about the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. And so I thought, well, I'm retired. I'm here. It's in the mountains north of Santa Fe. Let me start looking. So I started looking for the treasure in 2012. Then, because I had a background in documentary filmmaking, I was able to record the event in October 2012 at the Collected Works bookstore. I recorded the event at Moby Dickens, and I recorded several of Forrest's events after that. I think there's a total of 12 or 13 events that he asked me either to live stream or to record. I got into it as much as everybody else. But then I got busy with a startup that I did with Shelly and some other people called Streaming New Mexico. So I stepped away from it for a couple of years. And then I sold the business. We were offered some money for the business. I sold it. And then in January, Shelly called me and she said, we need to start a YouTube channel on the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. So we did. It hit really well. We were at 1,000 within a couple of months. It grew to around 6,700, and then the treasure chest was found. We have over 600 videos on Forrest Fenn, videos of him, videos of treasure hunters, videos of us hunting, and in all over that time period, we put up over 600 videos on the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. Then, of course, when it was found in June, we pivoted. We wrote our own treasure hunt book called The Gypsy's Kiss. We hit our own treasure, which was valued at around $15,000. It was found, we released it in September. It was found about 3 months later. And so we've been doing different things since then, testing it. We have moved away from the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. Although for those of you who are familiar with the Clubhouse app on iPhone, it's the new popular audio social media app. I will be starting a Forrest Fenn room club on Clubhouse, and that will start around the end of May. And we'll be there again, if you're familiar with the Clubhouse model. We'll be discussing Forrest Fenn in Clubhouse. And that puts us to today, and I'll let Christy tell part of the story. I got a message from Christy, a text message, and it was a couple of weeks ago, right? And Christy said, did you ever have any contact with Jack? And I said, no, I didn't even know he existed prior to his Medium article. And she checked me, right? She did a body check, and she said the equivalent of, "Are you sure?" And I said,
did do
yes.
a follow-up, and you were like I just said.
Yeah, like I said, I never had any contact with this guy. Well, that was apparently enough to get somebody launched. I think it was Hooley launched, saying, okay, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. And she started finding the material, and then she found one, and then I think the Reddit group, as Christy said, started pulling some more material in. So we did have communications with Jack. Now, I'm going to qualify that because I've taken a little bit of flack over it.
Before we go too
far, go ahead.
Let's give the whole, because some of you were asking, when did this happen? What happened? So Toby and I went over it just before we started, so that's what he's referencing. So let me just give a quick snapshot. 2 Mondays ago, we did a show because another tuber has said they got the general location emailed from Jack. That Sunday, I messaged Toby because someone said, well, if some other tuber got it, what about the biggest tuber there was at the time? Have you asked Toby? Because Jack does reference that he was going to be on AGK. And that's when I text Toby and said, did you have communication with Jack? And he said there was a single email. And I said, okay, are you sure? Because have you seen this where he actually says that he had communication with you? And he followed up and said, no, basically no. He said it nicer than that and gave me a little bit more detail. Monday show, we went on and basically presented that. We presented the tuber piece, we presented Toby's piece, and we presented a clarification on the treasure chest, or why we thought there was legal documentation in the treasure chest. There was 3 parts. Super Holy, she's not just a great moderator. By morning, I had gotten text from her, message somehow that said, I went through tons of the, like during that time frame, I think it was that week, and I found where Jack was on. So then all heck broke loose because Toby had messaged me by morning, left me a message that said, I got this anonymous email that said, yeah, you were on, or Jack was on. It was during that time. So then when we talked, there was the first one. By that Wednesday, the following day, I'm going to give a shout out to Rudy Green, and there was a partner in crime he had, not crime in a bad way. They figured out how to automate it. And what you do is put all the shows that you want to put into transcript form into a playlist. From the playlist, you can export a transcript file. So basically what they did is put all of Toby and Shelley's AGK stuff in a huge time frame of 2018 to 2020 and exported them all. We went from 1 to 5 within a moment's time. So some of you have seen some of them or heard some of them. Some of you may have been seen because it went from 1 to 2 to 3. And Holy was doing it the good old fashioned way. I want to give a huge shout out to her. I know how tired she was the following day because she's like, I fell asleep to it. I woke up to it. I fell asleep. You know, she was really putting it in manually once we figured out how to do it or they figured out how to do it non-manually. How cool is that? So now we have an entire list that developed over the last week or so. So then I circled back with Toby, and then he's like, exactly what he just said. I stand corrected. It was just, there was one call of a C. If you guys were around at that time, they did shows sometimes up to 4 times a week, because there was just on this, there was also Softer Side and other ones. So when all of that happened, how could you remember, Tony from Washington, Jack from Philly, and there's no indexing. Toby and I talked about it. There wasn't like an index of every single person's name. So with all of that, I just wanted to give enough background of this is how it was discovered. When I went back to Toby then and said, look at all this, he's like, I have to stand corrected. And that's when I apologized on the show. Not only, Toby just didn't remember 3 years ago, one random caller, now 2 or 3. But then now, I mean, this is for me enough evidence to say Jack was, I think a lot of us got relieved and went, oh my gosh, Jack was one of us in 2018 calling. How many of you guys have called into AGK or been on a marathon or interacted in some way? He was one of us. But now we want to get to the content of it, because a couple of the things he said was really, really interesting, I think. And that's what we want to talk about. And then Toby, I've had more questions about, where are the emails? Can you go back? Can you have them recovered? Can you call your internet service provider? Can you talk to the internet gods and figure that out? And I'll let you talk to that after, because you may have had just right in your inbox the final location of the Forrest Fenn Treasure.
So I got 2 things.
So that comment is based upon the fact that and I'm going to use this as what do they call it? Not physical evidence, but what's the opposite of physical evidence?
Circumstantial.
Circumstantial. So we have circumstantial evidence that some YouTuber said he received an email from Jack. That's circumstantial. Is that correct?
It is circumstantial evidence only.
And,
I've not seen the email.
You're using that as the possibility that Jack may have written me the same thing.
Yes.
If he did, I would have done with it what I did with all the emails of people claiming they knew where the treasure was.
And
I would have read it politely and put it in the trash. And my trash empties. My trash empties after 30 days. Right? Just standard Gmail trash. Right? It empties automatically after 30 days.
Because you probably had hundreds, right?
We used to get dozens every week of people claiming. And what the part that was the most difficult is some people went into them in such detail that there were 6 or 7 pages worth of detail where they believed the treasure was. Not one of them. Here's another thing that I thought was damned interesting. So over the life of my life in the treasure hunt from 2012 to 2020, I made 37 recons in all 4 states. A couple of those were in Wyoming because I thought the Absaroka, which is southwest of Cody, and the Lander area, right? Those are the 2 areas that we looked in. But I would get letters from people claiming that they knew where the treasure was. All the letters, and you knew how much time I spent in Rio de los Pinos, for example. Drink. Cheers. RDLP. And not one letter that I received in 3 years of live streaming was any of the locations that I had looked in. Any of them. There was no match. And I thought, how could that be that people aren't considering? Am I that bad that nobody's looking in the Absaroka or nobody's looking in the
No, they thought you were too close. Like they would nudge you to the final spot. That's what I think.
Here's the one thing that I'm certain of. I was wrong about everything, although I still don't believe it's in Yellowstone. I'll fight that one to the death.
Oh, and here is where I believe, I know Toby hasn't been following every show. I believe there's around a dozen people that know the final location. This bad boy's coming out, whether Jack likes it or not. I think someone is going to be putting it out somewhere. Now that I believe circumstantially, tubers know, my goodness, it's done. It's just a matter of time at this point.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Mike.
I got 2 things before we get into Jack's phone calls. The first one is, Toby, did you know that the sealed envelope from Forrest Fenn that was in your treasure cache. Did you know that?
I did. I actually, Amy
Yeah,
wrote
okay,
me
good.
and told me about the video that Cynthia had made, that
Okay.
they climbed to the top. That's a difficult climb. That is a monster of a climb. You have to be a good hiker to get that climb. But I saw the pictures. All the items that I saw in the pictures were in the treasure chest.
Gotcha.
And
so they were all items from your treasure hunt. Okay.
yeah, and I have an interesting story to tell you. When Christian first contacted me, he said, "I don't care about everything in the treasure chest, just the cash," because there was like $7,000 in cash total.
That's
right?
what he wanted. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was only concerned about that. Then about a week later, before we had actually met, he said, "You know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to take everything that's in there." He didn't take the treasure chest. He gave us back the treasure chest, and he gave us back the box that had the token in it, the 3D bronze chest that had the token in it. But yeah, when I saw the picture, I realized that all of the items that were in that photo that Cynthia took came from the treasure chest.
Okay.
Well, and
Just
that's
wanted to
cool
make sure
to
you
know.
knew.
And those that don't know, Amy Seeks is back. She's doing Wednesday night shows. And the show next week, I think she said, is going to be Cynthia, Justin, Smell the Sunshine, Matt, and her going over that whole expedition. Because I know she didn't make it to the top. Cynthia said she had to like pray to the gods to make it. It was rough, but they made it and they all celebrated. So we'll be able to hear more about that little adventure. But a lot of people are saying, were those items from Forrest treasure chest, etc. You guys will hear the whole story. We're going to let Amy tell that story. We're so glad to see her back. So subscribe to her. It's Amy Seeks, put in Forrest Fenn. And that's going to be their like a group show, I guess, next week. I don't know if all of them are going to be on or what, but
And
super cool.
Alex just asked, did the envelope from AGK ever get opened? And yes, it was. And that's in Cynthia Meacham's video. So Alex, if you check Cynthia Meacham on YouTube, you can watch her second or third latest video of when they retrieved it.
I never got a chance to thank Forrest for it, other than when he first sent it. I wrote him back and said, "Thank you." Someone asked, had I made the climb? I had. Back in the 1990s. My brother-in-law, my last wife's brother, was a student down at Las Cruces, and he knew that I was a hiker and cyclist, and he invited me to make that climb with him. So yeah, I have made that.
We got a super chat from Mr. Mark West, and he says, "Chirp." Chirp. But we want to thank you, Mark and Lisa, for the Hot Wheels. I did take some pictures, have some video. I just haven't uploaded them yet. So thank you very much. It was a good birthday this weekend.
Yeah, and Mark, I also got a bottle of your wine that's sitting in the super chat right there, and it's delicious. You make great wine.
The Mark West wine. Here's another one that was in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, K-Pro, but I think this is more for you. And that is, there are some YouTubers that went live yesterday, and Nomadic Madman is saying in that video, they said that Dan Barbarosi said he saw the treasure chest and handled the contents. Have you ever heard that? Because I have not.
I think Dan Barbarosi has a book coming out in a couple weeks, and
for sure, yeah.
I
was just wondering if you knew that or not, or you had heard that before, or you, Toby, either one.
The target date, I had heard that. The target date for Dan's book, I think, is the end of May, the beginning of June. They're trying to time it with some programming that's going to take place at that time. So
nice. I know I've got mine pre-ordered, and I know Susie Fenhaven won our giveaway, so she has her book pre-ordered.
Wow. Susie wins a lot of stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's in all the chats.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will find out when Dan Barbarosi's book comes out. So that's a rumor that's going around. Be interesting if it's true. Maybe in his book we will see some pictures of the treasure chest or contents that we haven't seen before. That would be interesting for sure.
I can tell you, I did get to spend some time with Dan. I think for the average reader that has never heard about the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, it's going to be kind of cool. I think the amount of detail that I think all of us are going to flip through to the chapter on Jack. Remember, he's been writing this book for years, but we're going to flip through, and I think the detail that we are going to get, and some of the detail that some people might be guessing about, I think we're going to be overwhelmed. He has been very clear. Do not think that there is the solution, a breakthrough, etc., like something so groundbreaking that it changes everything. But the level of detail that we are going to get, he spent a ton of time with Jack. Yeah. So I'm just going to say we're excited about it. Dan, good on you. It was perfect timing. His book was just getting to the end phase. the treasure chest was found. He found a connection. Anyway.
Can I answer a question?
Yeah.
From,
Go ahead and clarify it, Toby.
Okay. So Jana, we're talking two different things. I climbed that mountain, the observatory mountain in the Organ Mountains in southern New Mexico back in the 1990s. The treasure that was hidden up there and recently found by Cynthia was hidden by the gentleman who found our treasure. He took some of the objects out of that treasure and hid them up there. It was Cynthia that found his treasure. I had nothing to do with it other than I had made a climb to that mountain once.
Well, and to give one other little bit of detail, and then before they found it, Amy got an anonymous note, which happens to be from him later. They found out that just said, if you want something very special from Forrest, personalized, take the, and he actually did it in a poem. But then he said, like, it's a hike, like you have to be ready for it. Yeah. So Amy talked to her crew and the four of them went on an adventure. And so that's kind of the backstory. Some people thought they were doing a treasure hunt. That's actually what I had heard, or some things got misconstrued. Now they've put video out. They're going to do a show on it. Life is good.
Right.
Okay. Are we ready to jump right into a phone call?
Yeah, well, no, actually the first one's a text. So Mike, if you go to your 8th blink, on October 9th, I'll tee it up a little bit. This is, so this is the first time that this is back in your old place.
Blast from the past, huh, Toby?
I have been there.
That was my old apartment. Oh my God, this has been a while.
So on October 9th, 2018, Toby and Shelley obviously together. Some of them it's just Toby. What if the treasure chest was found? We're going to the 38-minute, 38-second mark. This is the beginning of the shows. If you didn't watch all these shows, they did text show. They usually did text, then phone calls. This was about halfway into their show. So 38, and let's see what Jack asked and what Toby answered.
To share this, or who to attribute this to. If the location of the treasure is revealed after being found, do you think it will be overrun with damaged by searchers making pilgrimages there? And would it ruin this specialness of the spot? Jack from Philadelphia. I don't know, Jack. There's a part of me that would probably agree with you that people would want to see it. I imagine that if it was on public lands that are controlled like a national park, they would immediately fence off the areas to prevent that kind of damage that you're describing. But I think the pilgrimage idea is special. It would have to be in an area where it was accessible and where it was legal, right? So let's say they did find it in a national park, that Fenn put it in a national park, that it was discovered in a national park, that it's made public. I can assure you that the national park will then do everything it can to protect that from damage and destruction. The other thing is, I've got to imagine that everybody would want, who's not everybody, but many people who were part of this because of the amount of emotional and physical and mental effort they've put into this, they may want to see it, and there is a possibility that damage could be done. But you'd like to think that that our better angels would take hold, and that we might go see it, but that we wouldn't do damage. That we'd treat it respectfully, because there's a lot of effort both on Fenn's part and our part has been put into it. So.
Maybe the finder will buy the land and put up a B&B and call it the Home of Brown or something.
And then put the treasure in the middle of the thing in a
glass case.
Glass case that's protected so everybody could see it.
Or a replica, have it redone in plastic.
Yeah.
And put that in the case. I don't think I'd leave it sit out.
Hire a company to build a casino and then just make that the centerpiece of it.
Yeah, there you go.
The thrill of the chase casino.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I can't.
And I can see the slot machines now, no place for the meek.
That's just, okay, guys, that's just a fantasy. I don't mean that.
So Eric Schmidt wants to know
A thrill of the chase slot machine. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
I'm liking that casino, Thrill of the Chase Casino.
Breaking news. That's what Forrest Fenn wanted to do with the chest. Have a casino. Okay, so
Well,
this is
Go ahead.
there's a couple questions from chat. This is from October 9th, 2018. This is the first time we have at this point that Jack made contact. So Toby, I want to get your thoughts, because what you answered then to what you answered now, and do you find it fascinating? This was Jack's first question, which is like the big question we have right now. Why isn't he talking? Some people are saying this was staged, this was set up. Jack knew he was going to find it and didn't want to say something. What do you think, Toby?
So first of all, I don't think Jack knew that he was going to find it any more than any of us who were searching for the treasure knew we were going to find it, right? Especially back then. Secondly, I have that the response that I gave is interesting because there was videos that I made prior to that said if we ever found the treasure, we would never reveal the location for our own legal protection, right? So I'm surprised that I was so liberal, I guess, with my response to him, like, the people should be able to see it and have fun and dig it up and, leave a coin so we can go search for it. But it was interesting that he was worried about it back then or he was thinking about it back then because it ended up in one of his Medium articles about, I'm not going to tell where it is because it's going to change. And I'm sure I would love to hear some of the conversations he had with we just mentioned his name, Barbarisi Dan, because I'll bet you there's some really good conversations related to why aren't you going to tell? And the answer he gave is probably consistent, and that is because it would be, quote, desecrated, unquote. Whether it was National Forest land, National Park Service land, BLM land, I think we're a lot more open to the possibility that it could. But if you look at the areas in Wyoming that it could be hidden that are forested, they're either national park or national forest, or in some cases, the Native American lands on the Wind River. And for sure, I can't imagine that Fenn would have hidden it there. So yeah, it's interesting that he was thinking about the problem back then.
And I haven't been shy about this. I don't believe that is the only reason. I believe there's a legal reason why he is not revealing where, because if it was in a national park, Yellowstone could come after him. I think a lot of the different types of land might have a battle. He might have a battle on his hands of keeping that treasure chest. It may be, and I'll stand corrected. I've done this many a times.
Yeah.
If it is only because it's damaged, because when some people thought DeLacy, when we went out for the GPS solve, we got pictures within a week and people were leaving necklaces and flowers and so many different things. They searcher coins and things. No one destroyed anything, and what they could have destroyed is maybe like made a tree fall. Like there wasn't anything to destroy. So that's the reason that I doubt the whole destroying thing. Like, how do you destroy the wilderness? Yeah, you could light it on fire. People light stuff on fire and they get put in jail for it. It just doesn't seem plausible to me that that's the reason. And I may be wrong, but I ain't buying it right now.
I'll give you two examples. One is White Sands in New Mexico. When we were children, we used to go down there at least once a summer so we could play in the white sands. And my mother would always bring home a mason jar full of white sand. Sometime before I got back to New Mexico, they restricted the carrying out of white sand. It's not actually sand, it's gypsum. But they put a restriction. You cannot take any sand with you because they were literally missing sand. Like it got to that point. The other example I'll give you is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., the Black Wall. And I was one of them because there were some of my friends' names are on that wall. People were leaving mementos behind. Every night, there's a park ranger that goes along that wall. He collects it, and they curate that in an archive. In an archive in the National Archives. So the National Park Service is very, you saw recently how they treated that individual who was digging up graves in Yellowstone. That guy's going to jail. They take these things very seriously. So I imagine that Fenn's experience with government agencies, especially the National Park Service, would have prevented him from putting a searcher at risk like that. And then the searcher, or the finder rather, and then the finder has to make a decision. What do you do with this? Do you tell everybody? Because it will be, and I hate to use the word desecrated because it's not a holy place, but everybody's going to want a souvenir other than a picture. No, I'm not, that's not right. Not everybody. There'll be a percentage of people that feel like they have to take something from there, even if it's a mason jar full of treasure chest dirt. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, and that actually brought me back to, I went to Hawaii when I was 5, and then I went to Hawaii again when I was 40. And I remember when I was 5, that beach was covered with seashells.
Right.
And there was these huge signs that said, you will be arrested if you take them.
Yeah.
People, everybody, I took a like a mason jar full of them. I don't even remember what happened to them, but 30 years later, everybody did that. And now they sell them for like 20 bucks as souvenirs. Right. So I see the point. I still don't fully believe that I believe there is more than just that reason. I don't know. There's a there. I don't
I imagine, and I don't agree with what I'm about to say. I imagine there are people out there that if you released the location of where you found the treasure, they would claim dibs on that location and get to the point that they might sue you for a portion of it because you can prove it was your location. Now, it wouldn't hold up in the courts. The courts look at that and say, meh, that's not going to happen. But I think you would have to hire a lawyer to defend you in all of those cases. And I think our friend Sassy had the same problem when she found the David Blaine golden orb. People sued her because they said that was my place. I just didn't bend over or something. It didn't hold up in court.
Right. Yeah, she had 4 different people sue her for different reasons. Exactly. But now that he's out, that could be happening. There's several questions from chat that I want to take just in relation to this. What was the theme of your show that night? I don't know if you know, but the quote or the title was, "What if the treasure chest was found?" That was your theme question for the night.
No, it was, what if the treasure chest, what are we going to do when the treasure chest is found and it's not us? Basically, we were trying to figure out how are we going to respond. That was that night. Yeah.
And Annie says, what claim would a national park have other than on the chest? From what I understand, a searcher talked to the past superintendent who was kind of on command during that time. And he did not like Forrest Fenn treasure hunters because of all the damage they had done. He had told Forrest, if it is found, this is all circumstantial, but this is what I heard. And I actually believe the person, but you guys know me, I believe too many people. The superintendent said, we will come after you, Forrest, for restitution of all the man hours and repairs. We will go after the treasure chest. We may not win, but both of you are going to have to hire lawyers, and we have a lot more bucks behind us than you do, is what I was told. There is a new superintendent as of late 2018. I don't know if that passed on or not, and I have never contacted that past superintendent. There's just too many things happening to do that. Okay. So that's the first one. So that is from October 9th, 2018. I think Jack had a lot to think about with your answer, Toby, because he didn't reconnect with you until February 3rd, 2019. Mike, this is your 6th link in your list. And we're going to the 50-minute, 40-second mark. This is only Toby. And this was the Super Bowl edition. If you don't like the Super Bowl, come and chat with Toby. That was the link to, or the title to it. So I think it was like Super Bowl Sunday or Pro Bowl or something.
Open Q&A night.
Yes. This is a text message, and it talks about Forrest and his interactions with searchers, and if he'll ever have any slip ups.
What was the minute mark, Gabriel?
5040, 50 minutes, 40 seconds.
Got it. All right, here we go. Should be interesting. Here we go. There we go. Here we go.
This is Jack from Philadelphia. Is there a time when you think Fenn will finally bow out of interacting with a chase? Maybe tomorrow as time goes by. Is there a risk he'll eventually let something important slip? So that's a couple of different questions. Let me address those. I don't think Fenn will get out of the chase completely until he passes. I think that's what'll cause it. There's going to be a point at which he's just I don't know none of us know how the end of our lives are going to go. So there's a point at which your life becomes more important than what you've done with your life, right? So the fact that I like making pens will become less important just in spending time with my family, et cetera. So there's going to be a time at which Fenn finally decides he needs to spend the rest of his life putting his business in order, spending time with his family, enjoying his grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that time has come yet. I think he's still active, and a couple of good examples is he's supporting the gold coin treasure hunt with Mysterious Writings and Dale Neitzel. So I think he has I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready for it just yet. And I can't predict for you. I can't predict for you when he will be ready. Could it be tomorrow with the release of the 6 questions? It could be, but what I've seen of him is he's still relatively active. He's had a couple of moments. We've had the situation with the guy who broke into his house, or a little guy from Pennsylvania that broke into his house. That probably made his family very uncomfortable. And if I have any sense of his daughters, they might have they might have suggested to him that he's got to step back from these things. But it's hard for him not to be involved. This is his legacy. If I was doing something that was my leg, okay, look at who's talking here. I tell you guys that every once in a while I'm getting out of this thing, and then I'm back up on YouTube, and I feel like, hey, this is kind of a legacy. These YouTube videos are going to be here even after I'm gone, and Shelley will have to take care of them. I hope she does. God bless her heart.
Oh, the irony of what you just said.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard to let go. I mean, it's really hard to let go. And I'm just a searcher. He's the person that started all this. So I can imagine how difficult it is to let go. I can't imagine that he's going to let go by any choice. I think it's going to be something, there's going to be an outside influence, whether it's his family or the state of his health, or the fact that he's got to focus on matters pertaining to the end of his life, et cetera, et cetera. And he's a pretty good business guy. I'm sure he has this in place already. But as of right now, I don't see any reason for him to not be involved, even just a little bit. He's still answering emails for the people that he likes exchanging emails with. He hasn't done an interview recently, but I believe that's primarily because no one's asked him to do an interview. He did, 8 or 9 interviews this last year. So I don't think he'll get out anytime soon.
And you were right. He didn't get out really until the day he died, right?
The one line in there that's interesting was he's still exchanging emails with the people he likes.
We did get a super chat from 3D Bronze. He says, PhDs are so organized. P.S. Jack, let's talk. And I would just put this out there, Jack, if you're watching. You called into AGK before. I'm sure Toby would do a special show if you wanted to call in and just get something out to the community. Even if it's just to make a statement, which I think is more personable over the phone and not, a Medium article, et cetera. But I bet if Jack reached out to Toby now, you guys could set something up. Maybe he wants to call into AGK one more time.
So, Jack, the phone number is scrolling right over my head right now, 202-815-1171.
Oh, wait a minute. He could call in live right now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. He could call in live right now if he wants to talk.
Oh, the phone lines are going to blast. Okay. One thing that Miriam asked early on was, he said maybe tomorrow. Why did he say tomorrow? That was the day before the 6 questions that usually came out every single year. So that was why the reference was made. But if take note of, it was February 3rd, 2019. So this is right before, we called it the Feb 4 updates, or the annual updates with Jenny Kyle. So that's why he said maybe tomorrow, because a lot of people thought, oh, he's going to put out his Feb 4 and he's going to disappear. He couldn't walk away from us. He loved us.
And I think, was that 2020?
2019, February 3rd, 2019.
Was it 2019 or 2020 where he said these were going to be his last 6 questions?
2020, he did a set of questions and he said those were going to be.
Oh, okay. All right. So it was 2020.
And then he didn't make it to 2021. So we don't know.
Right.
So yeah, and he did give an interview in November of 2019 with us. So he was given interviews, and that'll become important, I think, later, because I think some people were asking in the chat, like, why is he asking these questions? He had it solved. No, he didn't have the treasure chest. He had it almost solved. He had it just about solved. He had nothing. So he was frustrated. Now that's a question I want to ask in general. Do you think he was calling to help the search community? Well, let's ask that at the end, because a couple of these calls / text, I think they get interesting. Is it him trying to engage with someone to get that fine? He knew he was missing a little bit of something, and it happened to be the broken blaze. He didn't know that at the time. Or was he trying to help others if he is interacting with AGK or even more than AGK?
What if I told you that I thought that Jack never solved the poem?
Ooh,
I think a lot of people would agree with you. So let's earmark that to the end.
Yeah. We're going to hear Toby's thoughts on the end of the chase at the end of this program today. So make sure you tune in and don't tune out.
Yeah.
I would say maybe Jack is like many searchers who there's nobody else in his family or his life who wants to talk about the chase.
Right.
So he reached out to AGK. Now, I don't know, I don't know anything about Jack's family, but maybe it's, where he was just him. So
no, we knew from the majority of people that called in that they were calling in because no one else wanted to hear what they had to say. And we were very patient with them. I noticed that people were criticizing that I talked over him a couple of times, but you have to remember the reason that I invited call-ins was one of the principles of learning is to debate, right? To have people that you debate the question in. So my whole purpose in having the call-ins was not as much so everybody could hear what they had to say, but it was for the purpose of me improving my opinions on the matter of the treasure hunt, to debate it, so that if somebody else presented some other ideas, I could incorporate that into my own. This wasn't a matter of me like, oh, is this caller the one that's going to find the treasure? Right. I'm like most of you, I'm going to guess, I didn't think anybody else but me was going to find the treasure.
And you never did the rooster call for Jack, correct? You know how would people would call Jack? I know where it is.
I know where it is. He never did that. He was a lot more subtle, and they fell on both sides of that algorithm. Some guys would call Brian Ulrich. He would call, and he just wanted to talk about it because he was looking in an air. I think he was looking in the Rio de los Pinos too. Others would just call in and say, I know where it is, and I'm going to get it next week. And then they'd disappear. What was the one? There was Tunarth. I don't know if you remember him. At some point, Tunarth called in, I don't know, 3 times in a row. I'm going in 2 weeks. I'm going in a week and a half. I'm going in a week, and I'm coming back with that treasure. And then we never saw Tunarth again. And it was cute because Shelley was watching one of the videos that you sent. And she went, oh, look, Tunarth. He was there back then before he did the rooster thing. So,
well, and I think there was a few, and I'm going to give a shout out to David Bradshaw. Some people, I think we get a lot more of it now than you do. They will send, I probably get 5 or 10 solves a week still to this day. And I'll say, and I know this makes some people mad, but I'll say, Forrest said it could fit on a sticky note. Please give me the short version to see if we need to have dialogue. And they write for like 5, 10, 20 pages. And I'm like, sticky note. I can't get through all that. And it's not to say that I don't think your solve has merit. I only have so much time between kids, dogs, cats, amount of time we do this, amount of time talking with report, amount of time that's where I decide to spend my time. And David Bradshaw, I'm giving him credit because he was in the chat so much talking and roostering. When he called, I said, give us the sticky note. And he went, what WWWH is, this canyon is, did it. Okay, now do you want more? And I was like, the first person I think ever on earth to like just lay it out like that. It was really great. And I think that's actually, it would have been fascinating if maybe Jack sent you that email that said WWWH is this, you'll never know because you throw away your emails. Shame on you.
Yeah, I'm sure that I have the email in which Jack decided he wanted to share the precise location of where that just was. Waveseeker is asking, do you think Jack leveraged someone else's solution? Yes.
Oh, wait till the end. Wait
interesting.
till the end. Okay, guys, we're going to get to number 3 now. This is where we're going to start hearing Jack on the phone. Mike, did you want to say something?
No. Go ahead. I'll say save it for the end. Go ahead.
Okay, so June 12th. Now, so first one was October 9th, 2018, then February of 2019. Now it's June of 2019. I believe this is probably when he just got back from boots on the ground and he's dying. Why isn't he getting it? But let's this was what we affectionately knew as Hump Day Hoedown.
Hump Day Hoedown, brothers and sisters. Oh, I do want to make another point before we go on.
Yeah.
That last video that we looked at, I can't tell you how much I miss that Behringer mixer. It was an analog mixer with tubes, and it made my voice sound about 3 octaves lower. It was a great mixer.
Which link, K-Pro?
This is the first link you have. This is the one where
At the top, the first link?
Yeah, the first line. Yeah, the first one. This is where Toby starts reading his email out, and now we know his email is actually real. He's saying he's going to, he had text before. These are the highlights for you guys to maybe grasp onto. And then he talks about individual confirmation bias and supporting evidence. He basically tells Toby, I've given you a bunch of Fenn quotes and supporting evidence. Let's go over that. Oh, okay. So this is the one that my heart sinks because we must have that email. You must pay internet sleuth people to get it. Okay.
Well, the big takeaway for me was that this proves that Jack's email, he had it before he found the treasure chest. The numbers converted to letters and his Jack's hid cache. This was before he found the treasure chest. For whatever reason, he created that Gmail.
That's because Forrest hired him in 2018 or 2017. Anyway, so okay, let's. Some of you guys are going like, "What are we talking about?" Let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it. This is where it starts to get really good.
Oh, that's back in the shirt and tie days. Damn.
2532 K-Pros, right?
2515 is what I have.
Okay, I'll read it back.
Sorry.
Oop, there we go.
It's called Potential Afternoon Topic.
Not Jack Selvage.
Just Jack.
Jack 85319.
Oh.
He almost read the whole email.
Probably.
Okay.
Or something. I don't know.
Well, Jack put it out there publicly.
Hey guys, we've been on the show and I've asked some text questions before as Jack from Philadelphia. I was going to call in this week to talk about some different cognitive biases I see in the searcher community beyond just confirmation bias with supporting evidence from Fenn quotes. I think this would end up being a long call, though, as I have a list of 7 searcher biases and 2 potential biases I think Fenn himself may exhibit. So it would probably be better as the topic for one of your afternoon shows. If you have any interest, I could flesh these out more for you.
Should we ask him to flesh them out?
Flesh them out and maybe do some probing. Yeah.
Do not start.
Hey, it's hump day.
Yeah, it's hump day. Hump day and maybe
Hump
probing.
day.
Oops, got 2 of those. All right, this one is from Ronaldo Vasquez, and
Okay.
I'm just going to.
I'm sorry, it wasn't a phone.
Sorry.
It was an email. So we have 2 text, an email, and then the phone ones are coming up. Oh, Toby, you had supporting evidence for Forrest Fenn the Finder. Oh, this one makes me cringe, but it's so good, except there's nothing.
It's interesting. Someone in here asked if I had the same computer from back then, and the answer is no. We upgraded our computer to a workstation simply because we needed the performance. So now I use a high quality Dell workstation, which is a better performer with a better graphics card. But I do have the hard drives from that old computer. So
I don't even know what that means, but it's so exciting.
The external hard,
No, I
hard
know what
drive.
it means, but does it mean that we can get into it? Like, can we?
I was going to say they'll be up on eBay in the next couple of days.
Shame on you. That's so awesome. Okay, now, but to be serious, this one is still important, and I'll tell you why. Exactly, the email is one. When you started calling out the numbers and the numbers match, I think most of us, if not all of us, thought Jack invented this email for after he found the chest. This shows he had this back in June of 2019, if not before that, which I find fascinating. What,
I think based
Go ahead.
on the few communications that I saw from Jack, I don't think he had the chest at this point, but I do think he was zeroing in
Yeah.
on the location. He sounded very confident in his communications, like I know where he was, and then he wouldn't share. Right.
I wonder if he had the football size area at this point.
It could. I don't know, but it sounded to me just with that the amount of confidence that he was expressing in his emails, texts, and when he called in. I feel like he had zeroed in on some place in Wyoming, but hadn't quite figured out the clues yet.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like, especially with the ones that are coming up, because the next two are within 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, we're going to see two more calls, or two calls. When he says Fenn quotes, I do feel like he's like, I found the slip up / quotes. I just can't figure out why I don't have this damn chest in my hand. So I still think he was trying to, it's kind of like give a penny, take a penny. He was trying to give a penny and say, here's some confirmation bias, and here, let me help you. Help me crack why I don't have this in my hand. That's what I think he was doing. So he was doing the take a little, give a little. But I find it fascinating. He had seven separate biases and supporting evidence, and Fenn quotes. That would have been the big one. I wouldn't even like, it'd be interesting about, just give us those 9 quotes that you could get, at least 9. That would be, maybe Jack will do that for us. No, he won't. He won't give us anything but breadcrumbs. But
well, here, let's do it this way, Jack. It is highly unlikely I actually saved that email with that information, but I'm sure that you probably saved it. So if you did, please send it to gypsyskiss@gmail.com.
We got a question from Hooley. She says, Toby, you went to Yellowstone in fall of 2019. What took you there?
I went to Yellowstone because my theory for Yellowstone was actually, I didn't go to Yellowstone. We went to Wyoming and Montana. We went through Yellowstone because it's one of the best. It is the oldest and one of the finest national parks. I was not there to look for the treasure in Yellowstone. I was there to look for the treasure in Montana, west of Yellowstone.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people were questioning, like, was there a cover up of why Toby said he didn't know Jack, and now we've caught him, and he went up to Yellowstone in that time because it was Jack.
Yeah.
So let's just to be clear, you were not search partners with Jack.
No, I didn't. I didn't know Jack any more than I knew anyone who emailed me or wrote me, except you got people like you guys, Waco Joe, Rio Grande Joe. Yeah. They spent a lot of time interacting with me on our show. I have never met them, nor did Waco was always saying, let's go look for treasure. I'm sorry. Rio Grande Joe was always saying, let's go look for treasure. And that never occurred. So Jack was this is going to sound offensive. It is not meant to be. With 2020 hindsight, you can say to yourself, how did you ignore this guy? Right. But at the time, Jack from Philly was just one of hundreds of people that we were communicating with and had no more importance than anyone. Now, could you say, don't you wish today? Yeah, but I could also wish today that I had figured out where the treasure was. So
right.
You can't live that. Somebody's calling in.
That could be Jack.
Well, never mind. Well, and I think that actually makes...
we're not. I don't think we're taking calls right now, guys. So
yeah,
unless it's Jack.
Good. Yeah.
Well, I was from Denver, so Denver. We may take calls later, I think, but
you can take them from Puerto Rico or from.
It's their show, not mine. So
people were asking, did they dial that number from Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think this is a perfect segue into our first phone call, because I think one of the things, and Waco Joe or Rio Grande Joe was a great example. You and Rio Grande Joe would go back and forth, and it was like you guys were friends for 30 years sitting on a porch drinking some whiskey.
Yeah.
It just was fun to watch you guys.
Yeah.
This one, I'm going to tee it up to say, Mike, this is the one that my link didn't work, but yours does. I don't know if Toby locked me out. No, just kidding.
What's the date?
No, that is not my video. The link that you send me is not my video.
Well,
Yeah,
and that'll
was,
be interesting.
yeah, the link was wrong. The link was
something
incorrect.
happened.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right.
June 14th, 2019.
Got it.
This is one on special places for Forrest Fenn, Toby and Shelley, and it's at the 3310 mark. And I think the thing to take away from this or really kind of focus on, he just hung up on Jack. Toby just hung up.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Jack was obviously calling for the Denver Museum
Yeah, exactly.
in the parking lot in the actual spot we were supposed to find. Yeah, for the 10th clue. It's all coming together.
Oh my God, that's funny. Okay.
Well, I do have the phone number, so we can always call him back after we're
Okay, so it was probably Randy's trying to tell everybody where the beacon star was. But okay, so back to this.
Hashtag sundial.
So the big one here is exactly what I was saying about Rio Grande Joe. This interaction was a bit awkward. And I want you guys to see it first, but kind of look at the interaction and the flow between Toby and Jack. And then if you guys were around at that time, think back to Rio Grande Joe and Toby. It wasn't quite the same. And it's a little unfortunate because I think Jack maybe was a little nervous. Well, anyway, I won't tee up anymore. But this is the one that I think has the most meat and potatoes. This is where Jack talks how ultimately he thinks he solved it, which is Forrest being alone, where in the books he was alone, how you get the hints in the books, all of that. So I love this one. This one's like, I think, the gold mine. And then we even have another one after that on confirmation bias again. But Mike, why don't you tee this one up and then we'll talk about it when another call comes in and we ignore Jack yet again.
All right, here we go.
Hey there, you've reached Shelley and Toby. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and what your thoughts are on the matter.
Hey guys, Jack from Philadelphia.
Hey Jack.
How are you guys doing?
Didn't we just get an email from you, Jack? Is that your email?
Yeah, I sent you an email.
Yeah, hang on. I've got to turn you way down here. Just give me a second. Okay, talk to me.
Okay. Well, you said you wanted to be talked out of this.
Yeah. So okay.
I'll try and play devil's advocate.
All right.
Advocate for you.
That's a healthy way to do it.
All right. So, so I think it's maybe the wrong tack to say what we would consider a special place, because it's really about Forrest's special place. I think there are probably at least a few places in his stories where he is on his own, and they seem to be pretty profound experiences in his life. I think in the book you have where he goes and visits the waterfall. I mean, I guess he goes there with a friend of his, but the first time he sees it, he's in an airplane alone, and he feels a connection. Same thing where he's flying over Philadelphia and puts it out with his thumb. I think he's also got stories about looking through ruins in North Africa and at Pompeii, and he's alone, and the introduction to Too Far to Walk. He's traveling down the Madison River for a few days with a raft on his own. So I think there are quite a few experiences where he seems to find meaning in solitude. Off the top of my head.
All right. So let me counter then. Each of the places that you described were unique in the quality that they were an event, right? The event of placing his thumb over the lights of Philadelphia, the event of finding layers of wars, of historic wars in the deserts in North Africa. Each one of the ones that you described was a special event, but he can't return to any of those. He can't take any of those, take his treasure and go back and die aside from it. So although I believe he's had these experiences, you've just added an interesting facet to all of this. So let's use the example of the one that's in the preface to in Too Far to Walk, where he describes fishing along the Madison River downstream from all the way to Baker's Hole, and how he spent 3 days walking the rivers and fishing in the bends in the river where the water was a deep green. Well, so we can accept that was significant in terms of it was an event. We can also assume that because he told us the story, it is likely not his special place. Because we have to assume, although there is, because again, and the qualifier that I'll use is each of the things that you described as being special potentially to Fenn had the characteristic of A, it was associated with a special event. He's flying over Philadelphia. He looks down at the lights and he puts his thumb out and covers the entirety of Philadelphia with his thumb. What a memory, a special event. But he didn't have anybody to share it with. So it makes it into the book. I think those special places that make it into the book, that made it into the book, are likely not the special place that he wants us to find, because none of them have that other characteristic of having been shared with someone. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I would agree that, you know, the places he specifically talks about, it's probably not there, but I think there's probably a story behind his special place.
I agree. I think
that he's not telling us.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it. Shelley and I talked about. I think there is a story behind the special place, but I don't think that the story is, I walked into this area and I had a spiritual moment. I think the story involves a significant event. Let's say something as simple as finding an archaeological relic of some kind, or maybe a petroglyph, or my other theory about, I happened to be there on the summer solstice, and I saw this fire of sun passing through the rocks over my shoulder and onto, it was a special event. And if that had happened to you, if you had walked into, let's say, a canyon, and it was the summer solstice, which always had meaning to the ancient tribes, right? The ancient American tribes, all the tribes, all had a sense of the value of the summer solstice and the spring and fall equinox. But imagine if you had walked into a canyon and it happened to be the summer solstice, or maybe even the fall equinox, and you walked in that canyon and you looked up and there was a blade of fire coming from the sun, and it was cast upon this rock on the far side of the canyon, and you'd say to yourself, oh my God, how special is this place? So the event, there's the event category, right? Wouldn't you, at the next summer solstice, take one of the people that is closest to you, perhaps one of the people even that you love, your brother, your father, your best artist friend, and take him back on the following summer solstice and say, watch this. And then after they passed, it's still a special place.
Yeah, I think I probably would, but I think Ben likes to spend a lot of time on his own.
Oh, I get a sense of that too. Because I tend to think of myself as a loner. I have a lot of people around me, but I do spend a lot of time alone when you're retired and living, your children are all every place else. And you look forward to Wednesdays and Fridays because you get to see your best friend. Yes, that is true. He probably did spend a lot of time alone, but I also know that kind of personality that enjoys their alone time enjoys even more the few moments that they spend with another human being. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of that beast, not necessarily the nature of Fenn. I think it's the nature of humanity to want to share the things that are special to you with someone that cares about you and perhaps that you care about.
And just one more point.
Absolutely.
The poem begins with as I have gone alone in there. Basically, I can keep my secrets because I've gone alone. And,
right.
I guess it's not clear if it's just that one occasion that he went alone in there, or because he always went alone.
I think I could make an
I think
argument.
that's a possibility.
I think it's a possibility, absolutely. But I think I could make an argument that since that statement is made in the poem and has to be considered in the context of what he was talking about, as I have gone alone in there and with my treasures bold, he went not with someone, but with something. At that point in the context of the poem, that does not mean necessarily, although it could be, you're right, it could be interpreted either way. That does not mean at some time prior to that, he didn't share an event and a special place with that special place with another individual.
Yeah. That's all I
Hey,
had.
so let me break over before you leave. I got your, so we were going to do a show on confirmation bias this week. And I think it was based on that commentary that you sent me, the information that you did. We're going to save that for next week. I want you to know. And after we do that show, I want you to call in, and because I'm going to cite you in that show. But we felt like this was kind of a breakthrough moment for us, and we wanted to share it with everyone else. But we will cover confirmation bias next week, and it'll probably be on Wednesday. And so if you want to call or if you want to stay in the loop on Wednesday, and then I can, because I'm going to use you in the citation, and you can call in and we can talk about it. How's that?
All right, that's good.
All right.
All right, have a good one, guys.
You too. Thanks for calling in, Jack. We appreciate it.
Okay, so because because Susie asked, this was June 14th, 2019, pretty much 1 year before he found it, June 14th, 2019. So
okay, we got a lot to unpack here. So let's
hang on. Let me address some things before you start unpacking. Number one, that was the point at which we were using the GoDaddy 866 number. And the reason we finally stopped using it was because there was that very uncomfortable delay, and it was not synchronous communication. It was asynchronous. You could only communicate one at a time. Secondly, a long time ago, as a result of my work, I divided the world into, and there's a lot of other divisions, heart, mind, et cetera, but I divided the world into people who could speak and people who could write. And I'm a speaker. Shelley is a writer, and she's masterful at what she does. And we've seen what he's written and who he worked for. He was on that writer's side. It doesn't sound to me like a guy who's comfortable in a conversation. The other thing I'd like to do is go back to the chat room during this. I haven't done that. I haven't looked at it, because there's a point in every conversation that I was having, no matter who it was, the chat room would start going, okay, get rid of this guy. Okay, come on. We've heard enough. It's just another rooster or something like that. I'd like to see how the chat room responded to it, because he was very credible about what he was saying. He was just having a difficult time communicating it, because he doesn't seem to be a talker. He seems to be a writer. If he had written it and read it, if he had said to me, Toby, let me just read to you my thoughts, and he had written it, I think we would have been better off. And the last thing I'll say is, for those of you that say I didn't let him talk, I gave him plenty of chance to talk, and B, I'm still in debate mode. The objective here is to have a debate that improves both of us. So
yeah, in a perfect world, it could have just been him talking all that commentary. Now that we know what we have, but those shows would have been painful, not because of Jack, but because of many others we know what has happened.
Yeah.
This is the part that I love about the debate, and this is the piece that is the biggest takeaway for me. When he says, I think this is the spot where Forrest goes alone, and he gives some examples, waterfalls, Philadelphia, etc. And you said, yeah, but I love a place where I go first, but then like summer solstice, I take another person. And his answer was, I agree, but yes, I would, but we're talking about Forrest.
Right.
And then he gives some more examples, and you come back and say, but this is like where I go with my best friend.
Right.
And then his answer was a pause and to say, okay, one other point on something else. He would not capitulate. He would not give to you the answer of yes, you're right, or yes, I could consider that. To me, he was locked in that it was a place that Forrest only went alone, and you had to debate with him 3-4 different times. He still wouldn't give it up. I believe that is something key that we missed, or I missed.
Which is not unusual for searchers. Once their confirmation bias has locked them into a location, they're not going to give it up until they've been to that location. And I think that's another indication that he hasn't been there as of this date.
Nobody had. He had been there in 2018. We have an email that says, thank you, Cowboy Girl, that we got from last week. It was the place he went to in 2018, the first place he had gone to. Then he went and did recon on 2 other spots.
And he came back. Was that the one where he said he came back?
Yes.
Well, that's probably why, again, he doesn't know the treasure is there. He believes the treasure is there, right? And when you believe the treasure, it's like me and Rio de los Pinos. You know, I'll never forget pissing off Forrest because one of my videos was, screw it, I'm ignoring the poem. It's in the Rio de los Pinos. I'm just going to go and look in every spot I can find it, you know. And that's, you get to that point where you go, it's here. I know it's here. Yeah. That's where it all brings me. And nothing Toby or Christy or Mike or anybody else can say is going to talk me out of it.
Yeah, but the cool part on this one is, since we know he ultimately found it in that same spot,
yeah,
the debate made you wrong.
Right.
If we go with what Jack says, but it was the debate that outed that key part, which it's somewhere in TTOTC that he has been alone. But he said he agrees with you that it's not the particular specific spot because there's a story behind it. So if he brings up Philadelphia, it's not going to be in Philadelphia. Obviously, we know that. But it's not going to be on the Madison because that was in Too Far to Walk. But it's something like that, something special in that same way. So even though you guys were on different sides of the debate, it was the debate for me is what outed the reason why now. The subtle hints in TTOTC, it's where he was alone. And there's another email that we won't talk about tonight that even narrows it down more. I think we're down to only a couple stories in TTOTC where those hints could be, because Jack just confirmed where the hints are. Toby tried and tried and tried to get him to say, no, it is somewhere he's been with someone else, and he wouldn't let it go. He's locked down on it. So that means, to me, that was something he was so sure about. Does that make sense? What do you think, Michael?
So Tony, you should know by now that I don't answer why questions. If you can write that another way, I'll answer it for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Mike?
No, I was just going to break in and say thumbs up for having Toby on, everybody. It's kind of like the band's back together. Toby's been gone, at least he's not gone. He's still on YouTube, but gone from the Thrill of the Chase for a little while, Toby and Shelly. So yeah, thumbs up. And did we say about our panel tomorrow? Who's going to be on? I don't know if we've announced that yet or not.
Not everybody. We said that we're having Toby on. We said we're having
Toby will be on the panel.
Someone
tomorrow.
with the replica chest is going to be on. Somebody that is in a lawyer land is going to be on.
So just real quick, in the middle of our show tonight, I just want to remind everybody, new Forrest Fenn panel tomorrow night. We're going to give away 1 free gift card to the Legend Has It treasure hunt, which is in Arizona. And due to our show last Thursday, their prize has gone up to like $1,600, which is a boots on the ground treasure hunt in Arizona. But what you've got to do is comment on that video, which I'm putting the link in the chat right now. Toby, if you're interested in a treasure hunt in Arizona, go to that video, make a comment. We will use comment picker at the end of Monday night's show, and one person will get a free entry, a gift card, a free entry into that treasure hunt. Those were very nice brothers. Yeah.
Well, Shelly, Kevin, and I are going to a conference, a podcasting conference in Arizona next October. So maybe we'll spend a couple of extra days there. That's going to be our annual vacation this year.
Nice. So yeah, and you do have to be watching live tomorrow night in order to win. So just a reminder for everybody. And we have 34 likes. So thank you, everybody.
And Joel Lewicki wants to make sure everybody knows it's not him. It is not him that is coming on. It is a different lawyer altogether. I'll probably ask him after, what did you think? But here's the most interesting thing. He said, hey, Toby, I sent you some commentary about my thoughts on the chase. Toby, get the commentary. You have an email from him. It just makes me, I just can't get over it. You know what? The only thing that would be worse is walking by a treasure chest again and again, like I have on many hunts. It just makes me
here's what I'll do. It's not They're not stored. They're not archived. They're deleted. They go to trash. And then after 30 days, the last, on day 30, what's 30 days old gets deleted. Now, Google might be required by law to hold those things for some purpose. So, for example, if I was a fine arts thief, right, and the FBI came to them and said, this guy's a fine arts thief, I'd like to see his email records for the past 7 years, Google might have to turn that up and to return them. So.
Okay, and Toby, can we have your commitment, your promise, your vow, your oath, your that you will share that if you get those?
Okay, here's what I'll do. Here's what I will commit, that I'll ask Google whether or not once I put something in trash, it is gone forever, or they have some backup.
Well, the question is, do you have a Google Drive backing up any of your stuff?
No.
Okay.
No, Google doesn't
but
do
here's
that.
my question. If you
email doesn't do that.
If the Google gods somehow say, oh yeah, here's all your emails back. If you get that, so Jack went to the other tuber and said, I really don't want it out. Can you not put it out? And they said, okay. And that person knows it and said, I got my closure, I'm good. And I was like, wonk, wonk. Will you commit to share it with your community that has been through this with you, who has been loyal for years and thousands of shows and likes and all of it? Will you share it with us?
Yes, I will. I have no reason not to.
Okay.
I don't think, but at the same time, I don't think Jack would have written an email, especially to someone like me, who where he indicated where he thought the treasure was, because he's got to assume that if I think he's close, I'm going to get in my, at that time, truck and head north for Wyoming.
Yeah, I just, tell him you need it for your accountant, 7 years. Yes. Okay.
I don't think you have to have a reason. It's yours. It belongs to you. It doesn't belong to Google.
I agree, though, that there has to be some archive out there of something. I know my work has to keep them for a year, I think, just in case a student comes back and questions something. Anyway, okay. So we are now on the left. So so is there any other parts to this? Because there was the biggest takeaway I had was the examples he gave. He did give one from Too Far to Walk, and he's already said there's no hints in there. So the alone piece was huge, and just that he wouldn't let that go, no matter how persuasive Toby was. But my best friend, the summer, so you bring them back. He pretty much said, like, it's alone.
I will say that again. That is generally the experience I had. I don't ever remember in my debating with all the people that called that I was able to convince them of anything that they didn't already believe in. Can I ask a favor, please? I need to go refresh my drink. And the 720 number left a voicemail.
Oh yeah, check it out. You never know. If you want to play it, I mean, I'm okay with it if you are.
I don't know what it. I have no idea what it could be.
Your car warranty. You never know.
But let me go refresh my drink. I'll be right.
No problem. And I'll say this: I believe it was Data Drifter in the chat asked, "Has anybody gone through these AGK videos to see if Jack commented in the chat room? Anybody with a Jack handle? Do you know if that's been done, K-Pro?"
So here is what a few of us were working on. You can delete the comments. So I'm not even looking through the lots of comments, but you cannot delete a chat record once it's closed. So on the shows that were there, I sifted through it quickly. That is when the shows were just a rockin'. I believe some have done it. I don't know, since I didn't do all of them, I don't know if it was done thoroughly enough to say absolutely you could rule it out. I know some were working on it though. So at least on those shows.
Does find anything, make sure you reach out to us. Cowlazars@gmail.com or kpro3@aol.com.
Yeah. So, okay. So those are the biggest takeaways for me, is just, it's a place that he went alone. And I know some of you are going like, why is that big news? The poem said, "What as you gone alone in there?" Why would there is the explanation of the first stanza. I never read TTOTC and only focused on the places that he went alone. That's where I'm focused on now.
Well, I would just say this. Jack's point is it has something to do with where Forrest said he went alone. Toby's point, I believe, was I don't think Forrest would actually tell us. If it's in the book, you rule it out because Forrest wouldn't come out and say, this is where I went alone. Because Forrest said there are subtle hints, not, an obvious hint of this is where I went. And the other thing, as far as, is it a place he went alone and was there anybody else he took? It depends, in my opinion, it depends on why it was special to Forrest. There may have been a reason it was special that he didn't want to share with anybody else. Possibly. Without knowing the reason, we don't know. But I think it's possible that there is a reason he went there by himself and only wanted to go there by himself. We just don't know what that is.
Well, and this is where I noted it when it was being read off, or when the video was going. Jack said, "I agree with you, Toby. He didn't talk about the particular specific place, but I do believe it's associated with it, and there's a story behind it." And that goes back to what he said with us. Forrest said, there's a way to know. There's a story behind it, but it's up to the solver finder. Okay, we are now on our last one. I think this is the most
video
awkward
clip.
of them. It is the fourth click that you can make, Mike.
Okay.
So this is June 28th, 2019. This is the last one that we see on AGK. It's at the 41-minute, 11-minute mark. It was Fentrospection. Who always came up with these clever names? So this was the Fentrospection time.
Well,
and this is on confirmation bias. Yeah.
Shelley pointed out that I spelled Fentrospection wrong with a P where it didn't belong. So if you look at it.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, she did. She did because she's a sticky wicket like that.
Well, and so I think this one actually kind of does reveal, this is the one that I believe was found first by Holy, because it really talks about, I've texted before, I've called before, you guys have had some interaction. That's when we know this is where the can kind of came, can of worms, or Pandora's box opened. And so.
What date was this again?
This is June 28th, 2019. So this is the last one. This one's only Toby. I will note, because Holy is such a nice person, you're going to see, I think, the most awkward of conversations, and Holy is nice. So this is what she explains, and I actually like this. Toby is not as fluid because he is not there with Shelley, who usually deals with the chat room and the typing and the this and the that. When you have one person having to man it all, Toby's not able to give 100% into the interaction with Jack. And Jack is really kind of awkward, and it may be also a delay or whatever. This one is the most awkward, but I think also very telling of Jack's really focusing on this topic. So anyway, without further ado.
That is the old GoDaddy 866 number. So there is that 1 second delay and the synchronous communications.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, you've reached Toby at...
Anything else? Or are we good?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. I can pause it at any time. Just let me know.
Gypsy's Kiss, what's your name? Where are you calling from? And what are your thoughts on confirmation bias?
This is Jack in Philadelphia.
Hey, Jack, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Yeah. So I know I was supposed to originally talk to you about this, and I didn't know you were going to do the video on this. I actually went ahead and made my own video yesterday about this and other cognitive biases.
Yeah.
In Hunt. So if people want to watch it, it's called Cognitive Bias and Forrest Fenn Treasure Found.
So what do you think? Is there a sense of cognitive or confirmation bias?
What's that?
So do you believe that we experience, those of us in the treasure hunt experience cognitive or confirmation bias?
Yeah, definitely. I think anytime that you have a situation where there's not a lot of opportunity for confirmation, like you say, there kind of aren't guardrails anywhere. It's easy to lean on those biases that all of our brains have. I think, especially with confirmation bias, people don't have an appreciation for coincidence and just how much coincidence is around us at all times. And also our brains are kind of wired to find patterns. We kind of err on the side of finding false positives and things, kind of like an evolutionary advantage, but it kind of restricts their brain in some way. And you see that, you know, in this hunt, people, you know, find a pattern and it feels real to them. And especially when you have such a strong incentive, you're told, you know, if you find the pattern, there's a $1 million treasure at the end of the line here. You're much more apt to fudge things along the way.
So, do me a favor, send me a link to your video and I'll put it in our community blog so other people can see it.
Sure, I'll do that.
All right.
Yeah, so in terms of combating it, I think we need to have actually a higher burden of proof for, you know, what's a coincidence and what's a real pattern. And I think the only way to do that is to try and find intent. Intent is intention to lead you on this particular path. And I don't know for sure that there is evidence of that, but you know, he says he is straightforward and there's no subterfuge, and it's a lot less complicated than people think. So I have to think that there is evidence of intent out there for us to find, and that's our way of kind of disproving the coincidence. I think anything should be considered a coincidence until proven otherwise, and that's trying to find intent.
Yeah.
Back these things up.
Yeah.
So that's my piece on confirmation.
Hey, well, no, that's a pretty good piece. It sounds like it's got some research behind it. So again, email that link to me, gypsieskiss@gmail.com, and I will post it to our community blog so other people can take a look at it.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thanks for calling in. You have a good day.
Okay. You too.
Okay, and there it is, confirmation bias. Do you think he was trying to tell us something through that, or what?
He sounds to me like someone who wants to share in a subtle way his confidence. I just hear confidence. Right now, you have to what you have to do is break through the lack of confidence. Denver's calling again, dadgummit.
Pick it up. Tell them you're on the air.
All right, hold on. Let me see what it is. If this is a... Hey, Denver, you've reached Christy, Mike, and Toby on Cowlazars. Denver, you there? Denver.
Stage fright.
And you know what? It could be Jack. He's just stumbling his words trying to.
It's that
Hold on,
delay.
Let me make sure that, you know what I think is the problem. I have the do not disturb on. Hang on. So it probably just throws him into voicemail. Yeah. Let's see what happens. All right. So I think the challenge is that when it comes to the treasure hunt, based on what he's saying, he expresses a lot of confidence in what he's doing. You know, there's no debate. He's kind of right. He's one of those guys that feels confident in what he's saying. And I think it's overshadowed by his lack of confidence in communicating, which is probably why he eventually had to make his own video. And if you look at that video, there's a certain level of uncomfort in it as well. The confidence of his, you know, search righteousness that's in conflict with the confidence of him speaking in front of a camera, which is why he probably chose to be a writer rather than a speaker.
Yeah. Now, here's one question that I had, because you said, send me that email and I'll put exactly the location of the treasure chest on our community blog. You did fantastic.
Well,
I went back on the community blog and it only went back 6 months. Does the internet gods allow you to go back further?
I don't know. I've never been back further than that. The community blog is just the community blog. I don't know what it actually does with it. I actually haven't checked to see if there's a way.
So the final location is on your community blog and you have not checked it?
I have not checked it. No, hold on. So this guy keeps calling, but I can't hear hold on. Hey, Denver, can you hear me? Is that plugged in right there?
Jack has something to say.
Yeah. I don't know why. So the do not disturb is off.
Hey, give him our number and turn on the phone lines. He's got something to say.
Well, we don't even know who it is, right?
Yeah.
I know that's
Although
true.
they are calling, yeah, but
He's
Okay.
continuing to call, but you should hear it. The problem is,
I hear the ringing.
well, you're hearing it because you're hearing it through my headset. You're not hearing it. I can't see it on my mixer, my Rodecaster, so it's not getting that far, but I don't know why. Let me hang on. Let me just turn this baby off, and it sounds like he wants to say something.
Oh goodness.
Hold on.
probably how it was actually in Denver, Colorado.
So it plugged in. That's
Molly Brown and everything.
there. That's just power. This is a real straightforward TRRS to TRRS. It's hooked up back there.
X, Y, and Z.
Just want to
Go ahead.
remind everybody to thumbs up and tune in tomorrow night for the Forrest Fenn panel.
So who knows? We may have somebody call in tomorrow night as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
so
we
the
could do
big
phone
thing here
lines.
is I think this is the last one. So this was kind of he taught confirmation bias now on 3 of the 5. He did a video on it. It was basically a brain exercise. And I think he really knew he had hit something. He just couldn't figure out why he didn't have the chest. So I do agree with you. He was very confident, but I still think he was trying to give a little, take a little when he was trying to do this. Okay, so those are the 5. Those are the ones that are out there. So they range from October 9th, 2018 to June 28th, 2019. So that's almost a year that he interacted, or, October, November, December, January, February, a little 9 months. He was conversing with AGK. I think he was conversing at the same time with at least another tuber. That's circumstantial. We do believe it's Jack because of voice comparisons, what he said on his YouTube video. But Toby still does not believe Jack was the finder that simply. So do you want to go into what your theory is on?
So
I got to change something real quick. Go ahead, Toby. No, go ahead.
Okay.
I just need to change over to the conspiracy bridge. That's all. Go ahead.
So remember, I used to say that if you were searching for the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, you had to have faith in certain things. You had to have faith that Forrest assembled and hid a treasure, that he published a book, and that in the book was a poem that once decoded could tell you where the treasure was. If you didn't believe that, if you didn't believe Forrest Fenn hid a treasure, then don't waste your time. All right.
Yep.
By the same token, you have to believe, if you don't believe that Jack recovered the treasure, then you're wasting your time and you can go on the rest of your life looking for that treasure. In my case, it is much easier for me to believe that the treasure chest that Forrest Fenn hid is in Jack's possession, right? I can go on with my life. I'm not going to get anything from it. But as I stepped away from it, and I did, it was easy enough when I see the photographs of the treasure chest, Fenn sitting and, looking at it, Jack looking at it, photographs of where it was found. That's good enough for me. I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. That's enough. And I can step away and go on with the rest of my life. But over time, the things that had made me once a really good intelligence analyst started pushing at the back of my head. And I started wondering about certain things. As a result, I came up with a theory about how the search ended. And I don't call it a conspiracy theory. And I said before, if it was a conspiracy, that means that laws were broken. I don't refer to it as a conspiracy theory because I do not believe that laws were broken. Was there a bit of immorality? Maybe. Yes. But let me ask you a question that I want you to think about. If Forrest Fenn had called you any one of you that's listening to this right now, if he had called you and said, I'm dying, I don't want to leave this behind for my family to suffer with, will you recover the treasure for me? If you recover it, it's yours. How many of us would have said, no, Forrest, I'm sorry, I can't do that, right? So that's what it gets to. None of us would have said no. We would have all said yes. And then he would have stated the conditions. So here is my theory on how the chase ended and why it ended so weirdly. I believe that Jack, based on just what he said tonight and other things, I believe that Jack was in the right place. Right. In a very, and I know that Jack was communicating with Forrest. So Forrest had a good sense that Jack might be in the right place. Now, after, so at some point, I have to tell you another story. Some of you know that I had a heart attack on an airplane coming back from London in 1998. It was April 1st, 1998. I was returning from London, had a heart attack. Thankfully, we were able to get to the hospital, even though I was over the ocean at the time, and I lived. But every year I go to the VA and I have something called an echocardiogram. And the doctor, after about 3 weeks, calls me, and it's now a she. It used to be a he, but now it's a she. And she says, so here's where we're at, and here's what we're doing. And then they give you a number of the effectiveness of your heart. And it continues. Once you've had a heart attack, it continues to go down. And at some point, my doctor is going to call me, and she said, based on your current echocardiogram, your last echocardiogram, you've got about 3 months. Your heart has about 3 months. Okay, I'm going to answer this. No, I'm not. Let me hang up. I got to finish this story. 720. Let me just finish the story because it's important.
Indecision, key to flexibility.
Yeah. So I, at some point in the future, I'm going to be informed that I have a certain amount of time to live based on the condition of my heart. By that time, I'm going to be wearing an oxygen bottle or whatever, and they're going to recommend certain, if I'm not too old, they'll recommend a bypass, or if I'm not too old, they'll recommend one of those external things. They don't do mechanical hearts anymore. But I will know. So my theory is based on the fact that at some point, before his death in September, Forrest knew that he was going to. Can you hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it. The ring.
Right.
Yeah, we can hear it.
I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to give him 10 minutes. All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
10 minutes? Are you, if it's Jack, maybe.
Hello, this is Toby, Christy, and Mike. Who is it? Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what's your question?
Hi, folks. Hey, my name is Greg, and I'm calling from Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed Jack Stuef walk out of Railroad Gulch Valley with a treasure chest in hand.
Wait, Greg. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Could you say again where and what you witnessed?
All right, I found the treasure chest 06/03 2020 Browns Canyon National Monument, Railroad Gulch in Colorado. I sat on the treasure chest for 3 days. I didn't know what to do with it. It was on a national monument. That's the resting place where Mr. Forrest Fenn placed the treasure chest. I made a phone call to a gentleman that lives below Codell, Colorado. His name is Mitch. He lives below the cemetery in Codell, Colorado. He's a cousin of Jack Stuef's. Mitch was my gold mining partner. We were business partners. I let him in onto where the treasure chest was. There's a copy of Sitting Bull's peace pipe on the cave wall in Railroad Gulch, a bird above it, which is the Terry Knot. You quickly look down the shaft of Sitting Bull's peace pipe, and it's pointing to a rock spire outside the cave entrance. That's your quickly look down position, 12 feet below your feet, and it was well hidden. You had to have purpose to find that chest. It was exposed to the open, but the way the cliff wall bulged out, it was recessed back in there in a nook right outside the cave, 12 feet below your feet. It is an absolute marvel view.
Okay. Let me ask a couple of questions.
Please.
So I've been exactly where you're talking about. It was one of our recons. We didn't get into Railroad Gulch because the river was way too high. It was a spring runoff, which was our
Water
mistake.
tie.
Yeah.
Water tie, heavy load, my friend.
Yeah. So the cave that you're describing, does that cave, is that cave before or after the property changes into BLM land?
Well, actually, let's start from the beginning. I will answer your question, and I'm sorry I didn't understand what you said, but I think we can make clarity for the search community and end all this conspiracy theories.
All right.
I read a Trout Unlimited article. It was dated Friends of Browns Canyon. So I'd been in the area for weeks looking around. I read this article, and in the article, it explained that no one goes in there and that Browns Canyon Railroad Gulch area should be a national monument. So in 2015, Obama turned that into a national monument. In 2010 is when Mr. Fenn hid the treasure chest. Now, if we all reflect back on what Mr. Fenn was saying, we all need to trust in Mr. Fenn. He hid the treasure. He's the only one that knows all the answers. Well, then we hear word that Mr. Fenn went and approached his lawyer for a second time. Well, that was because land ownership changed. Browns Canyon and the Railroad Gulch area turned into a national monument. So Mr. Fenn went back to the treasure chest, and I have my reasons as to why he did that, because that treasure chest now is part of the federal government's property, which is all of our property. So hence the reason there's no jewels in that box. And there are two boxes, two treasure chests.
Now, are you on our Facebook page and you've posted a lot of this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's all over the Fenn community as far as that goes as well. The reason you haven't been hearing from Jax is I called the Browns Canyon National Monument that day after the treasure chest I watched him. I witnessed him and two other individuals walk out of Railroad Gulch with the treasure chest in hand. I confronted them right on the trail. Jax was not friendly at all. He just took off. He sprinted right to the treasure, grabbed it, and they didn't run, but they didn't. They went right back to Heckler Junction. I witnessed the whole thing go down.
Why were you there?
I was hunting for that treasure.
Oh, okay.
I was hunting hardcore for it. And I had all the poem spells it all out. It fits perfect like a glove.
Interesting.
So
when Fenn said it was in Wyoming, you don't agree with him?
Well, it's not in Wyoming. I handled the box, moved the treasure chest and all in Railroad Gulch. So no, it's not in Wyoming. Now I do have a story for that as well.
And unless you have some kind of proof, it's going to be hard to, nobody's going to believe it. In other words, unless you've got some kind of proof.
Well, and you said that you had a search partner or someone associated with you that is Jack's relative. If you want to send me that, I don't want to go too far down any rabbit hole at this point because I would like to see a little bit of proof on just that point. I know you have a lot to say, but just that point, because if you have someone that you were searching with that is related to Jack, that would be more than a coincidence, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Greg.
Yeah.
So let us get back to our conversation. Thank you for calling in. And I'm going to strongly recommend.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's
Strongly recommend that you continue to communicate on the Facebook page.
Yeah, that's fine, folks. I appreciate y'all. Love peace. You have the solve. Go through the poem. I can explain it to you. It's very simple.
Like I said, we were there. We used the poem to get us to Browns Canyon. We spent a whole week there.
Yeah, Browns Canyon, Warm Springs.
Yeah.
The home of Browns. That's where warm water halts.
Probably parked in the same parking lot that you did and ate at the same picnic tables that you did.
And there's quite a few videos out there that people were searching in that canyon.
Yeah.
And the put in is Railroad Gulch. So that's where you put in. Below the home of Browns is Heckler Junction.
Heckler Junction, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you had to cross the river. That keeps 50% of the searchers out of this search. They won't cross that river. If you go to Seidel's Suckhole, more rafts flip in that one rapid than any other rapid in the river. You can go there, eat lunch, and you'll watch 30 boats flip.
Yeah.
These are rafts. there's a dry creek bed right there. You walk up that, and that's Ian's Ever Drawing Nigh. There's no paddle up your creek. It's the first cave on your left. That's
All right, we're going to cut you off.
All right,
we're running out of time. Thank you, though, for calling in.
Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. Okay.
And that's why Toby stopped taking phone calls. No.
No, I did have those. I was very patient. We did have to get to the point where we had to put the 10-minute limit on it, because once a searcher would get started, they're not going to quit until.
Yeah.
And I think this is why you have to deal with what Jack's dealing with. Anytime it comes up, there's going to be somebody that, in this case, was there and watched him walk away with it. Right.
Well, and I know I'll get probably 5 or 10 people emailing me how rude I was, but here's where I come from in my world. I can only pretend so much. This is something that I'm not as excited about, is listening to people saying, Jack made it up. I had it. I moved it. I had to touch it each day, but I wouldn't recover it, or whatever it is. And I'm not being disrespectful to you. I'm just saying that I don't have the ability not to have some emotions about it. And that's not where I enjoy being. And that's why we typically don't take, I knew the solution and Jack's the fraud, because if you have some proof on it, yes, send that piece, but not the volumes of solves. Mike loves to hear from him. Email all of those.
Yeah.
4 times a day, 5 times a day.
As soon as you hear Colorado, it's hard to take in the rest. But a lot of people were saying, where's the rooster sound effect, Toby?
You know what? I took it, since I haven't used it, I needed the space, so I took it off my Roadcaster.
We did have another question earlier, which is, when does the Clubhouse begin?
The Clubhouse will start right after the release of Dan Barbarisi's book.
Oh, okay. And I believe May 18th is the
probably,
I got from Amazon.
Probably the end of May. I've got to do my 3 rooms first. And then you can start building clubhouses. And one of the clubhouses I'm going to build is going to be a Forrest Fenn clubhouse. So get the app. It's only available on iPhone. They have said that the app will be available on Android around the middle of May. But get the app. It's really a cool application. I mean, it's the next big thing in audio communications. It's cool. You just
Mike can't be on it. He doesn't like iPhones. He thinks they're awful.
Well, he can do it on their Android. Well, let me get back to my story, because we're coming up on 7 o'clock here. So I believed. I'm going to say this. What I'm about to say is all my opinion and based on my beliefs. Mm-hmm. I believe Forrest Fenn knew he was dying. I believe that Forrest Fenn's family was pushing him to bring an end to this treasure hunt, so that because he was close to dying, they didn't want to have to deal with the bullshit.
Yes.
Excuse my French. I was watching one of your shows one night, and you were talking about Occam's razor, Christy, and you gave what you thought was your Occam's razor, and that included Fenn contacting Douglas Preston, and Douglas. That to me was not Occam's razor. Here's Occam's razor. After 10 years of 350,000 searchers looking, Jack Stuef figured out the poem, went and recovered the chest, and took it back to Forrest. That's Occam's razor, right? That would be the simplest solution.
Now, you said, though, something that the room caught on to. You said because Forrest had communicated previously with Jack. Jack says he called him one time. He never emailed him. So how did he get a hold of Jack?
Communications is a funny thing. The way that you use it, that could mean he didn't talk to him face to face. There had to be some kind of communications between Jack and Forrest. Otherwise, what happened on June 6th would have never happened. Here's my theory. At some point, Forrest knew he was dying, and his family wanted to bring an end to it. One of Forrest's most often used sayings is, 2 people can keep a secret if one of them was dead. He knew he was dying. So he reached out to Jack, the guy that let him know he was within range. Jack met several criteria. Number 1, he was a good writer. I'm sure his emails are outstanding. Number 2, he was relatively unknown to the community. And in Forrest's case, the only way he would have been known to the community would be if we had all watched Toby's and Jack's videos, because we didn't even know they existed. That's why I said, I did an interview recently where I said the same thing. He was relatively unknown to the community. I had to call them back and said, I talked to the guy. I just didn't know it. But for all intents and purposes, he was not well known to the community. So we weren't following Jack Stuef. None of us were watching his videos.
He wasn't a Dale. He wasn't a Jenny.
Exactly.
He was Cynthia. Desert
And you
Cloud.
have to admit that if and I'm going to talk about that phone call that at some point Fenn had to make. Would you please do me the favor of recovering the treasure? And if you do, you can have it. Could you imagine if he had called Dale or Cynthia or Toby, although very unlikely, or Christy, or anyone who was highly visible, or Sasha, right? Or Jason, anyone who was highly visible, and everyone would know that they had a friendship of some kind at some level with Forrest, chasing Indy, right? Candy. He couldn't do that. He had to find someone that was relatively unknown to the community and hadn't bragged about where he was looking. And we all talked about where we were looking. Everybody knew that Sasha was in New Mexico. Toby was in Rio de los Pinos. Dale was in Montana, et cetera, et cetera. He couldn't have done any of that. He had to have somebody like Jack Stuef. So he calls Jack Stuef, and he says to Jack, I need your help. I'm dying. I don't want to leave this treasure for my family to have to deal with it. And I can't tell anybody else. It's just between you and me. I need you to recover the treasure. If you do that for me and return it here so that we can take the necessary pictures, the treasure is yours. Now, the first question I got when I brought this up from who I was bringing it up to said, well, isn't that illegal? The answer is no, none of that is illegal. It's Forrest Fenn's treasure to do with what he wants.
Yeah, I maintain that. Yep.
And this is what he wanted. He didn't want his family to leave. He didn't ask Shiloh because it would have just involved his family. He didn't ask Douglas Preston for anything. He went directly to the person who was most qualified. And by what I mean by qualified was he wasn't the expert searcher, but he was in the generally right area. And I think that resulted in the frustration, because I would bet that Forrest Fenn didn't have a GPS with him because he never thought he'd need one when he hid that treasure. He didn't have the exact coordinates. He had to tell him kind of where to find it. Here's where you go for Warm Waters Halt. And then if you look around, you're going to find the home of Brown, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So even Jack, and you guys know, if you've ever been looking for a treasure, you know how different the forest is from how it's described. And it changes from one visit to the next.
So you think the 3 weeks that Jack says it took him to find it, it was after Forrest Fenn told him where to look?
Exactly.
Now, why isn't he coming out with the solution? Is that is that related to?
Because I don't think he has the complete solution. He was given a general area to work with. He didn't have to resolve the clues. He would have had to, in resolving the clues, Forrest would have said to him, look, I can tell you where Warm Waters Halt. But he's not going to give him a GPS coordinate. He's going to give him a general area. And then you follow the clues from there, all general areas. Look for the big tree with the brown fish in it. I don't know,
Yeah.
And he had to.
And about half the room is saying you're right on, and half the room is saying no way.
No, of course. I mean, that's what we expected, right?
Yeah.
If that's how it happened, I would be okay with it. I just don't think Forrest should have lied about it. I think Jack should have came out and said, this is how it ended.
Listen to what he said. He didn't. So Forrest was a master of this. He didn't lie. He just didn't tell the truth. When has Forrest said, right?
Forrest does say that, and he's wrong. Forrest, you're wrong.
Right? He didn't lie. He didn't just tell us the truth. And that explains why it ended the way it did. He calls Dale Neitzel and he says, I've got a paragraph announcing that the treasure has been found, in which he doesn't congratulate and never did congratulate the finder.
Because Jack didn't actually find it, not in the proper way by using it.
He just did it. He did it. And I'm sure that Forrest wasn't any happier giving it to Jack or anyone else than had someone found it, because he was being forced to do something that didn't end the way he imagined it to end. He was doing something for his family, and I've done things for my family, even though it just pissed me off to do it. Right. But I did it because I love them and because I wanted to protect them and because it may not have been the way I wanted it to end. And so you make a little short note to Dale. You don't inform the media. You avoid the media at all costs, so you don't have to answer any more questions, and you never congratulate the finder.
But then that means Jack is lying. His Medium article is a lie where he's like, I found it, etc. You know.
No. Again, if you listen to it, I found it. I searched for 3 weeks.
Nobody said he never had any help from anyone, is what he said.
And you could use it again. It's not a lie. It's just not the whole truth.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Watto Man says this doesn't pass the smell test. F would have told Jack exactly each clue where it was. There'd be no need to just give him a general area. But it could be true that the blaze was damaged. So while Forrest could have said this is the blaze, Jack may not have been able to find it.
Number one, he couldn't have given him the exact location. He could have given him a general location because he didn't have a GPS with him, but he wasn't planning to have to go back and find it. He was figuring you were going to look at a bunch of clues that maybe were 1,000 yards apart in a forest that was now 10 years older than it was. Did you see that treasure chest? That treasure chest was out there for 10 years. It had looked like it had been out there for hundreds because it's the damn forest. It's not the damn Forrest Fenn. It's in the forest and it's going to change. And the things that Forrest Fenn left behind. And I remember somebody asking him once, will you be able to use the clues in 100 years? And he was hesitant about the answer where he said, things are going to have changed, you know, it's nature and it changes.
Well, that's why I never liked 9 clues, if followed precisely, will lead you directly to the treasure. That's not exactly what happened. That's why I like the GPS numbers, but that does lead you precisely to the treasure.
Except that he probably didn't he never had a GPS with him.
Said he did after 2018, Jack.
No, Forrest. You meant Forrest.
I'm talking about Forrest.
But couldn't Forrest do that with his maverick skills from being, I don't know, you guys are both veterans.
That's the whole point.
Skills?
Yeah. I mean,
for some reason, K-Pro, slow.
Yeah. So you could take a compass and take readings from the compass. You could have very well done that.
And Forrest was a pilot. He definitely knew about GPS, latitude, longitude, right?
Right. He didn't need to. He never expected to have to go back.
But I'm talking about for a searcher to find it. His poem is not precise. Begin at where warm waters halt. That's not precise. That's
why in 10 years and 350,000 searchers, nobody found it.
Right. So you think Jack got help from Forrest in order to find it? Basically, is what you're saying, right?
No, what I'm saying is that Forrest Fenn asked Jack Stuef to do him a favor on behalf of him and his family, and then he died. Two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead,
or they don't, or they delete their emails. Question for you though. I want those emails to me. The last time we heard from you, your theory, and I looked a lot into it because you are impactful in the community, in my opinion, was that WWWH site that put up, the timing was rather odd. They put it up and said, we have it. If you put money in escrow, they shut it down. About that was, why have you ruled that out as your leading thought?
So honestly, I haven't, except the way the search ended. Right. It could be. I don't think the search end. So I think when I talked about that theory, I would say, let's see how it ends, because so far the Forrest hasn't thanked the finder. Right. And that's where I thought, well, maybe that's the way he didn't like the way that it ended. But what happened, honestly, is we found out that A, he was dying, and B, we found out that his family wanted him to get rid of this before he died.
Yeah, the timing, there's no question that the timing was odd beyond odd, and there were some issues that very day in their home. Yeah.
That was the day that, what's his name? Matt was there, right? And one of the daughters, imagine this. So Matt's there, no mask. The daughter gets pissed off, throws Matt out, and looks at Forrest and says, "Get over with this effing thing. Do whatever."
Or as far as you end it or I end it.
Yeah,
Because I know
exactly.
you're going soon.
Right.
The day after you die, I'm going to say it's a hoax.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
don't end it, I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
What I think Forrest should have done, if that is correct, if your theory is correct, Toby, and that basically Forrest picked somebody to retrieve it because he knew it was dying or for whatever reason he had, I believe he should have given everybody a date, say 6 months, to say, I'm going to end it on this date. It will be retrieved. Everybody make your one last boots on the ground to find it. That's how I think he should have done it. But
and again, I think that was possible, but I think hindsight being 2020, I don't think he had the time. I think when a doctor tells you you have 2 to 3 months to live, your life changes right then. Everything that you had
But I don't
planned-
think he was
and
given that. I think he was given, he wouldn't make it out of the year. So
Yeah,
he didn't
whatever
know if
it
was
was.
going to be March or September or October. He
Right.
just knew it was he knew his days were definitely.
You feel it. I know. I didn't have anything beyond the angina. And after the stent was put in, I don't even feel, I'm still running, cycling, those kinds of things. But he was at the point, I mean, when they describe how it happened, he stood up, he keeled over, they were rushed into the hospital. And then because they knew it was happening, he needed a cardiologist's permission to go home. Because the cardiologist would have to say he'll be gone by this afternoon.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that I know that, so I believe that Jack is the person that picked up the treasure chest. I believe that he has ownership to it now. I don't know at this point if he was nudged a little or not, or what that looked like. If his lawyer did it, maybe gave the nudge or not. There is some odd connections between Jack and the people very close to Forrest from before this hunt.
Yeah.
Not close enough to say this person's related to this person, but there is some connections that others have done and sent to me, and I've gone, it does reveal a lot of Jack's family and personal situation, so I won't go into that, but I have seen some things that make me still scratch my head. But wow, this has been fantastic. We're going to continue this, guys, tomorrow night. We wanted to go over all 5 of the clips, start looking back on those, think about those, and we're going to have a panel tomorrow night. Toby's going to be there, but we're also going to have kind of a legal perspective, and we're going to have a person that has the replica. So if you have some questions about the replica, we are going to have a person, who the heck's on the panel? We are going to have a person that's never been on before, a person that helped out with the looking through and categorizing all this stuff. Maybe Rudy can help us figure out how to get Toby's emails that say exactly where the treasure chest was located in 2018. Or the community page, or I don't know. I think
here's how it's going to go. If I'm going to ask Google to dump all my emails from 2018 and 2019, I'm just going to turn them over to you. I'm not going to spend any.
And K-Pro will go through every single one too.
Yeah.
I certainly, you know what? And I'm so dumb on technology. I'll just literally go through and be like, oh, no, it's not Jack. Oh, no. I went through my emails from 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And you know what the most terrible part was? I just put in search term Jack. And you know how much Jack and I were going back and forth, that he was the lead searcher in the $2 bet. I must have had 300 emails about that. And I was like, damn, Jack, $2 bet. Damn, Jack, $2 bet. It took me an hour and a half because of Jack and the $2 bet, which is just.
Now, I do want to point out that I don't treat all my email addresses the same way. My personal email address, which dates back to 2006 or 7, it was one of the first. I was actually doing a contract with Google at the time, and they made me get one of their email accounts. So that one, which has been my personal account for a long time, does have that kind of data, but searchers don't write me there. So.
Yep. So you guys heard it here. I'm going to be going through getting Jack's email. Jack, are you nervous? I'd be nervous if I were you. Just come out. Jack, if you come out
there's
now
a bunch of steps
with your whole story, I will not share the emails of where you told Toby why it was special, the special spot, pictures of everything. I know you did. Jack. No, I'm kidding. We're just having fun here, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Toby. It has been so long since we've seen you talk Forrest Fenn. We're going to love it again tomorrow night. We have a panel. We have all of you. I want to thank thank the 300 of you that were in the room. Please go back, watch those, bring the hard-hitting questions. Go ahead.
Oh, we did get a super chat from David Yawk, who says, K-Pro, did your YouTuber friend give the same general area to you as what that Denver guy just mentioned now? Now that would be interesting. I'm not sure who your YouTube friend is, but
I think he's referring to the tuber that says they know the general location. That person did not reveal the general location to me, but did confirm it's in Wyoming, because Jack told the person it was in Wyoming in 2018. So no, if I believe the guy that was just on, the Denver guy, said it was in Colorado. Wrong state if you believe Forrest and his attorneys, and what he submitted to the courts. Go to Why I Must Go's page. You guys can see what we've been saying. It's not just they agreed to say it's Wyoming. Forrest submitted a document to the courts that he could be held under perjury if he said something wrong. And he said it was found in the state of Wyoming. Now you could say the state of the prairie grass or whatever. I'm telling you, I believe it was found in Wyoming. That doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means what I just said.
Indiana Jones with the super chat. He is a big movie buff, and he says those Baby Ruth candy bars mentioned in The Thrill of the Chase remind me of that movie, Look Who's Talking, where Grandpa keeps eating all the candy bars. That movie about the baby. I remember Look Who's Talking. Thank you for that super chat, Indiana Jones. We do appreciate it. And for everybody who super chatted, all the moderators, and a big thank you to Toby for being on the show.
Well, I do want to thank all the people who are saying thank you for me being here. I really appreciate it. And of course, I have a lot of fun with it. And I feel like we can make a little bit of a contribution. Who knew? And I do want to apologize. When I said that I had never heard of Jack Stuef, I really just didn't remember. And the reason I didn't remember is because we took hundreds of those calls and got thousands of those emails. I do want to give a little plug to Messages and Methods, which is our show on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Shelley is on that show. And then on Tuesdays, we do the podcasting and live streaming channel where we cover level 1, 2, and 3 technologies for podcasting and live streaming. And then, of course, we're doing gaming on AGK Gaming on Friday nights. So join us on any one of those, especially if you like the games. The games are a lot of fun. We have regulars, including Sassy, comes in there. And I don't know, what do you know, Sassy? She's actually a very fine artist. And she can't win Drawful. There's a game where you have to draw things, and she can. The other day, she was like 0 points going into the end, and then picked up 2,500. But it's so cute and so funny. So
yeah,
anyway,
it's pretty competitive. So I can.
She's very competitive.
And somehow Shelley also. She's so quiet, but she's always on the leaderboard. So yeah, I haven't been in a little while. I'll try to jump back in there. I just think this is the one cool part for me. Somebody asked, what would you feel like if you had 5 different, bye buddy. Sorry, boys are leaving. What would you feel like if you got all those calls and things? I would have thought it was cool that I somehow was a part of things. Yeah. And it's actually, AGK put in so much time and effort for the years that they put on programming and recorded things. You talk to the finder beforehand. I think that's a little piece of just positive.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it is so awesome. So I wanted to say thank you. All the hard work pays off when at the end. I would have loved to have that final interview with Forrest. That would have been my little bit of contribution, because he did want to say some things, because I do think his days were numbered. But you got the piece where it kind of, brings it all together. So
well, if I have the emails, it'll make it even better.
Oh, it'll be awesome.
And I do want to say thanks to Holly for having the patience to put in the time and effort necessary to find at least the first one of these, if not the others. And of course, Rudy, who somehow organized the guys on Reddit to find the others. So thanks for that. Thanks for making me completely wrong. Again.
No, you were, but giving us so much content based on whether you're right or wrong. We got so much content out of it. And I think it'll bring us through probably the next couple of weeks. And then we have Dan Barbarosi's book.
Yeah, Dan Barbarosi's book. And there's going to be some programming that I think people will be interested in seeing.
Yeah, and there is a reporter that has asked for some people that might be going out boots on the ground this summer or this spring. Some people are already out.
Yeah.
Shoot me an email at kpro3@aol.com and just say I'm willing to talk to the reporter, and I will forward it on. There's been about 45 that are already out that I know of or planning to go out this year. There's a 48 hours that's going to be coming out. And there's a couple of other bigger things, and I have heard one of the documentarians has gotten some funding and officially moving forward.
Oh,
So
good.
so much is happening, and we're going to continue to cover it. So thank you guys all for being here. I know we had a great time tonight, but we needed to tee up this
2
content
hours.
so
Yeah.
we can jump into the analysis.
It was a lot of
real
fun for me. It was good.
analysis. Yeah.
Good for me just to kind of get into the old, get all this Fenn stuff inside of me. Yeah. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great. So we'll see you tomorrow night. We'll see all of you tomorrow night from the Cowlazars channel. We're still having fun. Keep having fun, y'all.
Oh, what time are you on tomorrow night?
7.
Your
Pacific.
time?
Yeah.
So that's 8 o'clock
8
my
p.m.
time. All right. Yeah. Because you're Pacific, right? All right. Thanks for the invitation, you guys. I appreciate it.
Tune in tomorrow. New Forrest Fenn panel. We'll see everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.